ready to go.
Right, let's hop in. Flontier's asking us to make sure to check hunt on this map, and I certainly can do that. It's
Yeah,
been a bit dodgy from time to time.
yeah. These bisons don't know what side of the wall they want to be on. Sometimes they are north of your base and they're just in watching distance, but you can't hurt them in because of that wall, which is annoying sometimes.
Cool. The players are just started inside of the intro.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome back. My name is Harrison, and we are joined today for another Best of 5 series. And this time we are joined in the intermediate division of the ESOC Winter 2020 tournament in the round of 8, which is the quarterfinals between Flontier and Kaister. The first map of this Best of 5 series is going to be Bonnie Springs, and we do see quite decent hunt from both players, both having 2 nearby bison hunts, as well as actually Kaister having a nearby third. I'm joined today on the co-casting mic with Scroogey. Scroogey, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good, and I had just had a look at the map and the mines, and it seems perfectly fair to me, so we should be good to go. Which is
Absolutely
really nice
excellent.
because this map does spawn quirky sometimes, which is why it's not the most popular among players. And Kaiser already getting a 60 food treasure, which I think is very good for the Iroquois because they want to get that age up as fast as possible in queue, and probably gonna go for a fast fortress agenda. What do you think?
Well, so it's Iro versus Spanish, so I think Iro is dictating the pace in this game and could either go for a fast fortress, as you said, but they could drop a forward war hut, try and get TP control. They do have the tomahawks, they can train from the war hut, they have the big button, they have shipments, so I think it's on Kaiser to dictate the pace of what he wants to do, and Flontier will have to react, and may just wants to try and go for in-base fast fortress classic French, Spanish style, but we'll have to try and react as best as he can to what Kaiser's going to do.
Yeah, and maybe the Iroquois player doesn't want the Spanish player to get to the third age because, of course, these falconets are very, very hard to deal with for the Iroquois because they don't have artillery of their own, and they just kind of have to muscle through with their musket riders, and that can be tough if the Spanish player manages to protect his cannons well. So maybe he wants to keep him in the colonial age. And also a villager treasure, I have flared it here. That's going to be quite important. Probably, I think both players have scouted it at this point. Maybe Kaiser not yet, but Flontier definitely seeing it.
So obviously Kaister playing the Iroquois, he's going for the early trading post, so he must have had enough resources. He started with a wood crate, chopped a bit of woods to go with it, and he's knocked down a trading post. He does have the crack shot, which does quite a lot of splash damage, so he may want to use his outlaw rifleman to kind of group the wolves or coyotes together in a nice bit of a ball of units together, sacrifice the outlaw rider with the Kaiser getting a big splash damage, but he's going for the free outlaw pistolero native guardian, as well as picking up a native scout as well, so he's getting quite a lot of line of sight capabilities in the early age one.
Yeah, and if he finds the Spanish explorer, which he should know is over here, he maybe even can deny the TP, which is of course huge for the Spanish because they like their experience. But no, he's going for the villager treasure and easily gonna get it probably. With so many guardians shooting away at the wolves, they don't have a chance.
I was just checking that Flontier had an extra wood crate in base, so he's picking up now. I was worried that he couldn't see it behind the tree. Because if you zoom out at the normal zoom, the tree's kind of blocking that view where the crate starts, but he's managed to pick that up and should have enough wood in his bank very soon to drop down his own trading post on his home trading post socket.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering what start it was, but now that you said that, it was a wood start, but I couldn't see the crate, like you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Kaiser does rescue that settler with his army of explorers, the outlaw pistolero, and the outlaw rider. So good damage from these units, as well as quite a bit of HP to tank the coyotes. And the Kaiser must use his crack shot as well to do quite a bit of damage. And this villager is straight away gathering from this far herdable bisons. Usually, field treasures are very important, so you can drop down forward bases, but because Kaister is Iroquois, they do age up with the travois, which can build buildings for you. So in this case, it's not as impactful for how fast Kaiser can drop down a forward base, but still, an extra settler early in this game will be very, very useful as the game moves on.
Yes, and this lady is also in a prime position to drop down a stable behind the forward war hut if Kaiser elects to do so. And I just want to mention, Flontier slipping away with his explorer. I think Kaiser was trying to deny scouting with this little army he assembled, but Flontier slipping past that, but now going back. So not sure what. I thought he wanted to go into the Iroquois base and scout if it's an FF or a fast age and aggressive build.
Oh my god, look at this. We'd have the Iroquois exploring the outpost wagon, and this outpost wagon could go down from the large damage of the Outlaw Pistolero. Managed to get it down, foundation on cue, but could actually get sieged down by this Iroquois war chief. Quite good siege damage, but certainly not the place he wanted to put it down.
No, that's huge, because that's going to slow down all the fortress aggression from the Spanish player from this point forward. So that's a huge pickup for Kaiser. And also getting a bit of damage on the hero, but probably Flontier knows now that this is an FF build coming out of Kaiser, because he saw the slow age, and that usually indicates you want to age fast to the fortress age, of course.
Yeah, we've actually seen as well from Kaiser following this up with an in-base war hut, and I was going to ask you before the outpost shenanigans, but would you drop the war hut on your own TP or on the right side to try and deny the Spanish TP? But going in-base as well as shipping 5 ills, and I assume the all crate shipment, which he does have in deck, he does the crates of 300 food, 300 wood, and 200 coin, as well as the 600 coin. If Flontier does scout this with either his dogs or explorer, this should signify that Kaister wants to go for a fast fortress, and Flontier already has the resources going for a fast fortress as well. So both players are wanting to make their way very quickly to the third age, where civs rather do excel, especially with Flontier's fast age up, cannons, heavy infantry. I want to protect the cannons. Kaister will have access to stealth skirmishers, so we may see some shenanigans with skirmishers going into stealth and popping out behind falconets and picking them off for free.
Yes, that's of course a huge advantage for Iroquois, because they can get in stealth and snipe down the cannons that way. I actually haven't thought about that. And looks like Flontier is not going for the stagecoach on his half. Maybe he wants to go be very, very aggressive right away, and the stagecoach of course would have slowed him down, although giving him a better eco. But I think he wants to make something happen with the 2 Falk shipments, a lot of pikes and hussars, and just ram down into Kaiser's base.
Yeah, I think Kaister knows what's going on. You can see the Flontier only has 1 trading post built. He's not going for the second one. He's not going for stagecoach, and he didn't see many settlers mid-map to start off with. So if he was going for some sort of colonial agenda, he would have maybe 1 or 2 villagers mid-map to drop down that building. So he's only seen basically the tower go forward. So I think Kaister knows that Flontier is going for the fast fortress agenda, and vice versa from Flontier, because he hasn't seen any units like 4 Kanya horsemen or a forward war hut anywhere around either, basically right where Flontier's explorer stands. It'd be a great place for a war hut, but Kaister is now scouting the 5 settlers from the outpost, and the Spanish usually can squeeze in this extra shipment in the second age, whether it's going to be 5 settlers or 8 pikes, where the 8 pikes would be very useful to defend in the cannons even further if he wants to go more aggressive.
Yeah, that native scout seeing everything, and probably Flontier should be on the hunt with his explorer. He knows that the native scout is out there somewhere, and you have to hunt him down basically, because that's a free map hack you don't want your opponent to give. And also Kaiser spotting the pikes these are from the age up, I think, so no hussars coming out to raid him. And both players now up in the Fortress Age. It's going to be interesting to see what Fortress shipments they go for.
I was just out of game there, just changing volumes. But yes, we both players into the third age as well, and we do have skirmishes being produced from the barracks. But I think Kaister also saw that the pikes were on the field as an age up, and so Kaister should be very readily aware that falconets will be first shipment coming in for the Spanish, and that's what we see from Flontier. 2 falconet ships moving in, and Kaister has responded with musket riders of his own, the dragoon style unit of the Iroquois player. And let's look at units in queue. What else he's got going down? He does have another batch of musket riders, at least 3 coming out, and he seems to be focusing more on dragoons for the time being, which, with only 3-4 skirmishers on the field, these dragoons should be able to do quite a bit of work versus this heavy infantry falconets composition.
Yeah, I like that he's going so hard on the musket riders, because probably he wants to swoop in, get a cheeky shot off on the falconet, like he's doing right now. See how much damage he gets? Not that much actually, and getting punished by quite a lot of shots there.
Crack shot coming in from the explorer, and he picked up 3 musketeers there. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Now a ton of how they called in English, the
Uh,
forest prowlers. A ton of forest prowlers out for the Iroquois player.
hmm. He's got to be careful. He needs to spread them out into the kind of staggered formation because a big couple shots coming in and not a massive shot for the Falconets there, but he's not really getting onto the Falconets. They're still firing in. Pikemen on top of the musket riders and a couple go down there very cheaply for Kaister.
Yeah, this is a very tense standoff because as soon as the files go out, basically Spain has nothing. He has to go back. But as long as they are alive, there's such a big threat. And first Falconet going down, getting sniped down, but paying again a hefty volley on his forest prowess for that. And right now, I think the game is hanging in a very delicate balance.
Yeah, all the action is happening on this side of the map, and we do have 9 Releros being shipped from Flontier, and he's just going to drive them straight into musket riders. He knows that if he can get infantry onto the musket riders and take them down, that this cannon's going to stay alive, and with only 28 HP on this Falconet, it's so close on dying, but in comes the Explorer, and the crack shot picks it off as well.
Yes. Now why fight that even? You just can go back and like assume you've won, because the Iroquois units just outskilled the Spanish ones in Fortress, and he's maybe even realizes that he can take the fight right now.
He's just trying his best. I think he was just trying to hope to pin the...
Kenya's coming in, and this is huge! No anti-cav whatsoever on the field for Flontier, and he's gonna get cleaned up.
Yeah, he tried to get all his Releros onto the musket riders and the forest riders so they couldn't kite and just try and melee down the musket riders, but once all those infantry dropped, those cannons pops at the right time to try and capture this skirmisher mass out of position. He's trying to make his way back to the to his outpost, but I don't think he needs like a 12 pike shipment to rescue this, or at least 5 dragoons or 5 lancers from the shipment to try and stabilize.
I think he's got the rods on the way, and Kaiser maybe not doing the best job at chasing him down. Still some skirmishers alive, and the rod shipment should be popping any second now. I think.
He's just sent another shipment as well, so he should have one popping right there. And there you go, 8 Rodaleros. So he sent 9 rods, 8 rods. These are still the colonial age Rodaleros, so no upgrades on these guys just yet. Not veteran or the hand combat card. And I think Kaister realizes he's in a decent position. He's not overcommitting out of his base. I like that. He does have the. He hasn't even got stagecoach yet on his left side.
I just wanted to say he only got the TPs for the experience. He does not have stagecoach right now, but he, of course, now he can mix that in easily, right? You're ahead and you just invest a bit in eco and just hold back, and that should be good for him.
Yeah, if Kaister wanted to be very cheeky now, he does see that the Spanish explorer is on the field and down and was taking a quick nap from that combat he was just in, and Kaister, if he wanted to, can toggle on the stealth mode from the skirmishers and at least just could send maybe 1 or 2 forward just to see what kind of units is coming in. And we do see a 5 Lancer shipment has arrived after the 8 Rodaleros, and with about 9 skirmishers on the field as well, with more skirmishers in queue. This is like a 3-unit competition for Flontier, and you know, his first push with the Falconets didn't achieve what he wanted to. However, this is a well-rounded competition for Flontier to come back into this game with.
Yes, especially the Lancers. If they get on the forest prowess, they will deal absolutely huge damage. But also the composition from the Iroquois player is quite balanced out. He has some musket riders, none more in the queue. Maybe over-focusing a bit on the skirmishers. He has to be aware of the Lancer threat that the Spanish player still has. So I would like to see him make more musket riders, because maybe 10 is a little bit not that much.
We do see from Kaister, he's in units in queue. He's only got 1 Forest Prowler still in queue, but these Canyon Horsemen, they're still the second age, and he did send a massive resource card earlier, the 1200 resources, so he hasn't got it now, but hopefully that stagecoach should come in soon. But big raid left side, Lancers on villagers, not very great raiding units, however, still 5 cavalry units on all these villagers, and they're having to run away, and look at all these villagers having to move and become idle. All the armies moving across, and look at this, musket riders trying to make their way, but being blocked off by this wall from Mother Nature, and the skirmishers are nearby. So I think the position's worked out really well for Flontier for the time being.
Yeah, this was a great raid for Flontier. He idled basically all the eco. He didn't kill that much, but alone the distraction value was great for him, and the Rex didn't even go down.
I didn't even see that Kaiser was sieging that. So yes, he's managed to shift the attention to left-hand side of the map to try and direct Kaiser's attention and military forces away from his only barracks out in the field, back in base. He doesn't have any other buildings. He has a market down now, but he's only got hunting dogs. But yeah, stable on the floor behind this. 5 hussars being shipped as his next shipments. Still Colonial Age with no upgrade with it. And what does Flontier have? He has the cavalry combat, but he has no infantry upgrade cards. Only has infantry pikemen, but no infantry combat in the third age.
Yeah, I don't think the Spanish have that. They only have like the rod combat, and maybe he's gonna ship the 4 Lancer shipment and then Cav combat, and then it's go time for him. That's a pretty strong timing for French, for Spanish, excuse me. And again, Kaiser coming in here, trying to siege down the military buildings. And let's see if Flontier responds with a push on the villagers or trying to zone Kaiser off.
Well, Kaiser's getting his elite Kanya horseman upgrade incoming now, and you can see how this map with this central wall segment has made Flontier have to path around the entire left-hand side. So this entire map design is coming into fruition here, and we see Flontier's army is positioned from behind, trying to cut off Kaiser's reinforcements and way of retreat. Being scouted out by this longhouse though, so his villagers may be at risk, but actually what he wants to do is try and engage his army while it's out of position. Huge, massive Lancers and Hussars, and Rodolfo's being protected in the background, coming in on the left-hand side now, trying to get on top of these Kanya horsemen, and these do great versus the hand cavalry. Skirmishers being targeted onto the musket riders. This is a great engagement from Flontier at the moment.
Yeah, very nice focusing of the musket riders from Flontier, and looks like still some Lancers up, and the Rods cleaning up the Kanya, so this looks like could be a cleanup from Flontier.
7 Lancers still on the field with 3 reinforcing from the top. Only 1 musket rider on the field. 5 Kanyas reinforcing from somewhere else in the map. Where are they? They're on the field. Yes, they're coming to the south, but these Lancers on top of the Forest Prowlers, and with skirmishers behind. Yes, Rods can take this out very easily. Lancers need to focus onto the Forest Prowlers and let the Rods do the work.
Yeah, what a great engagement taken by Flontier here. And still more Kanyas going down. He has the perfect counter unit composition, and then he's gonna push onto these villagers and maybe even kill some of them. But he is in the military lead right now, which is great for him.
And who says Spain are the worst civ in this game? We've seen some great play from Flontier in game number 1, and even picking up this single Forest Prowler is still standing. But we've got to watch out though. And all of Flontier's eco is on the left-hand side. His military is pushing the right-hand side, but it just needs one clever switch from Kaister to switch his forces onto the left-hand side to pick up all these villagers, and there's no health upgrade on these villagers.
Yeah, I think Flontier realizes that he has to protect his resources, and also Kaiser's left the right-hand side of the map, only chopping wood over there, and also getting a fire pit, so right about till now he didn't have the attack guns available, and looks like Flontier is trying to zone off Kaiser of the resources over here. And yeah, as you said, Rod Lancer is not a bad unit composition. I lose to it all the time, and I don't know how to handle it. And looks like Kaiser has also some troubles.
Ooh, trying to be cheeky and picking up some HP on the Lancers, but the Skirm Mass from the Flontier just walks in and just says, no, thank you, and nearly takes an entire musket rider there for free, and that would have been every little helps in these games. It's always a battle of attrition, but shipping 12 pikes behind this to deal with the buildings is a smart idea, especially when Stagecoach brings in so many resources. But I'm not too sure how the pikemen will stand up versus, well, actually, Kaister has mainly a cavalry-based army, so pikemen's a great shout. And yes, there was so many villagers on the left-hand side, and I think Flontier knows that he was pushing the right side, so the eco must have moved to the left, but he's already killed a few villagers, so he may think that the furthest villas are that one just killed, so he may not be aware that there's a huge number of villagers gathering coin on the left-hand side.
Oh, another 5 skirmishers getting picked up here for free. That's not what Kaister wants. He needs every unit he can get his hands on right now. And a big raid coming in here from Kaister, but getting zoned off quickly by the enemy cavalry.
That's not, Flontier won't mind too much because he does have 12 packs nearby. This raid on the right-hand side, though, is something which Flontier is going to struggle to deal with, but he has managed to get on top of the... Well, he hasn't actually chased it. I think Flontier's just going to turn into Kaiser's base, but he's going to tear down his houses first while he can. He sent his hand infantry back to deal with it, but we do have about 8 Kanyas running riot in the Spanish player's base, and Flontier a bit undecided which way he wants to go with this.
Yeah, I think it's a bit tough because he doesn't have any dragoons on the field which can chase the raiding cavalry, so whenever he sends his hand cav, like right here, to chase down the enemy cav, he can always get sniped by musket riders and take a bad trade. So he's a bit more mobile and has to push onto more meaningful places.
Yeah.
Like he's doing right now. This is a big pickup.
Frontier's getting onto the villagers, but he was undecided where he wanted to go on the forest prowls of the villagers. He's now scared the villagers away, but the forest prowls have come into play, and Flontier has just decided to go straight onto these very strong skirmishers with the infantry upgrade, and lets the skirmisher and pikemen deal with these hand cav, and quite a lot of these villagers behind not doing anything and can't do anything until these pikemen go down, and the pikemen get a great trade versus the Canyers.
Yeah, they were in perfect position between the Koiman and the house. They have had no opportunity to get on the ranged infantry whatsoever, and now an even bigger military lead crystallizing for Flontier. Wow.
Kaister's typing GG, and yes, Flontier takes game number 1 in this best of 5 series. And
yeah, that was a great game to watch.
At the start of this matchup, I didn't have high hopes for the Spanish Civ in this matchup, as well as this map as well, but looks like Flontier actually came back from a slightly difficult position early on in Age 3, but really came back well with the string of, well, it really kicked off with the 7 Rodolera shipment, or the 8 Rodolera, the second Rodolera shipment, and then followed by the 5 Lancer, 5 Hussar, and once he got that mass of units, he actually managed to pick off quite a lot of Kaiser's army to the left-hand side of the map, and I think established military control from that point and just kind of kept on taking trades while building a skirmish account and essentially massing a huge number of Lancers as well, which is, in the end, skirmisher, Lancer, the Kaister couldn't deal with that combo.
No, I think the Spanish player was done for after losing the Falks, but he made a great comeback with a great composition. And look at the fight at 15 minutes. It was a huge trade for Flontier. He was down in military population, but like came out with basically 21-7 military pop, which was very game deciding. And I also like the tactics from Flontier when Kaiser was pushing on the right. He counter pushed on the left with a slightly more immobile army. So yeah, very good game coming up from both of these players.
And that's what's so great about this map. Quite a lot of the maps in the map pool at the moment is very what I call a heads up, where the shortest route to your opponent's base is basically straight for the middle, and you see quite a lot of action happen in the middle of the map with 2 players' armies meeting each other. But with this circular dynamic of the wall and there's quite a few resources in the middle of the map, but quite a lot of resources to the far left and far right. So a bit of movement of armies around, trying to move ecos around and try and protect what you have while trying to put pressure on the opponents. Adds to quite an interesting dynamic for game number 1 here.
Yes. Also, neither player opted to siege down some of the walls to give himself more mobility. So maybe he didn't think of it, or didn't want to open the gates for his opponent. Because of course, when you siege it down, the opponent can come in as well.
Well, the only person who could really do that was Flontier with his siege from this heavy infantry. Kaister didn't really amass enough of an army with a siege attack threat behind it to tear down the walls quickly, and we have seen in previous series where I think it was Azamk who managed to tear down one wall segment, build his own wall, and chuck a gate in it to really surprise his enemy.
Yes, that was great.
Kaister in the end outgathered Flontier. The rate of increased resources looked to be higher for Kaister as well, and I think that came in after the 1200 food. 1200 all resources crates, as well as the stagecoach coming in later on. But once both players had to move their vills around, Kaiser's army actually, he couldn't reinforce as well as he needed to, and took a few trades against quite a lot of Flontier's units, specifically Lancers on skirmishers and pikemen on the cavalry at the end there. So I'm going to hop out of that game. Good game to Flontier. And let's get into the lobby for game number 2. I've lost my connection to East, so hopefully it's not out for too long.
No, it's not. I'm sitting in the lobby right now, but I did get kicked out of ESO as well. And looks like Flontier is locking in the ports on Arizona. I trust that is the correct map. I am not aware of the map as of now. But yes, the next map is Arizona, and we will have to see what civilization Kaister picks. Maybe French coming out of him, because I don't know. I think French have this is a typical ATP map. Oh no, he chooses Iroquois, and they also have Iroquois. Also is quite good at denying ATP play, I feel.
Yeah, so I was just checking some of the settings behind us and making sure I have access to the Twitch chat as well. just checking if the sound's okay, moving forward into game number 2 here. Looks like we're all good, everything else. But I'm excited to see Portuguese on this map. We have seen it before, very recently. I can't explicitly remember which of the players was, but I was casting it with... Oh, who was casting it? Again, there's just been so many series, but it ended up with a Portuguese versus Ottoman, with an Ottoman revolt against a Portuguese player, and then just like 150 units marched into Portuguese base and just couldn't hold out though. So maybe we'll see quite a bit of trading post contentions early on in late age 1, early age 2, especially with Flontier picking the Portuguese, who has access to the advanced trading post card.
Yeah, and also we will have to pay attention to the guardians that Kaister picks up, because they play a big role in denying the explorer and the villagers from getting TPs up.
What do you think? What do you think about the hunts?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like in general Kaister has 2 more hunts on his side.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, do you want to rehost this one just in case?
Yeah. I think it's better to rehost this one.
Yeah, let's get that one out straight away. I don't think it was completely unbalanced, but I'm just looking at Flontier has 2 safe hunts, where Kaister definitely has 3 safe hunts he could easily herd in, as well as having extra resources on his own side there. So that's the reason we're going for this quick re. Let's quickly hop out and move straight back into the game lobby for the next game.
Yeah, it was like two extra hunts on one player's side, and in the late game, this game can very well go into the late game, especially when ports is part of the game. These come into play. Sorry, I'm ready. All right, we're hopping into game number 2 of the Intermediate Division quarterfinals. Kaister versus Flontier. Flontier picking up his first game as the Spanish, and now picking the Portuguese, and Kaister going again for the Iroquois.
Yeah, so Flontier won with his first game. He's just elected to pick the Portuguese civilization for Arizona, which has this long trader route to go throughout the center of the map, which has multiple trading posts on it, each delivering about maybe 110, 115 experience per trading post pass. So certainly very worthwhile to control. And somebody in the chat has correctly informed me that Flontier, this is his favourite civilization. This is Flontier's bit of bread and butter. He's very knowledgeable with the Portuguese civilization and has played Civ many a time. So I'm expecting great things from Flontier this game. And if I thought last game's control over the Spanish and how he won versus the Iroquois was impressive, who knows, we may have something even more impressive on the cards. We do see Flontier moving out to the top right of the map straight away and has come across a 60 wood treasure. And he does have a remaining wood...
To interrupt you for a second, what do you think about the hunts? I think Flontier has 3 hunts, but the rest of them are very far from him.
I think, for example, say like that hunt and these 2 hunts, they're so far from each other's base. Their class is neutral. I've seen like in terms of the number of safe hunts. I think we're good for this one.
Okay, yeah, and the mines are fair too.
Yeah, that's all good.
60 wood treasure coming up for Flontier, and was it a 200 wood start?
Yeah,
I think so.
So it was. We've got 100 wood down in base, and what I was about to say is that this is enough for an advanced trading post. So if Flontier actually wants to send advanced trading post as card number 1, he hasn't picked his deck just yet, but that could allow him to get a trading post on the board early enough, and may dissuade Kaister from trying to go from too many TPs of his own. He does drop 1 trading post as his own on his own side, and it looks like it's just about to get his pass on the trade traveler. So really nice positioning, and I guess luck from Kaister, but we have to assume it's pure skill at this point in the tournament.
Yeah. Unfortunately, his first shipment is already on the way, so he's not going to get any bonus out of that. But he also got a 65 wood treasure, and he had a 100 wood crate, so he basically didn't have to chop anything for that TP. And of course, Arrow with an early TP, it's like back in the old RE days where they just bum rush you and you can't do anything. So this is a very strong start for Kaister. 70 coin coming in from Flontier. He can't use that right now, but probably use it for market upgrades later on.
Yeah, even his in-base coin mine of coin treasure of 20 coins just still not enough to drop down a market and buy another 100 wood. So I think that 90 coin might be on the floor for quite a while. Flontier has shipped a shipment in age 1, and I still haven't access to his deck, so I'll just quickly reload from Kaiser's deck before going back to Frontier's. And yes, he's either sent an Eco Theory or Advanced Training Post, and I would have to assume at this point it's Advanced Training Post, and he is collecting his wood crate now off the floor as well.
Yeah, and Kaister again getting a big Pokemon army out to deny these trading posts, and he's heading for this one right now. So maybe the Explorer gonna go down. Also, Villager coming out here, maybe gonna get spotted by the Wolf. And no, looks like Kaiser is turning around. The TP is not gonna get denied.
Well, so this Explorer is not scouted. I'm not too sure if Kaister will know that a TP is coming, because he could assume it if he scouts the Advanced Training Post in deck, which is a very common shipment to send first card. But I think at this stage of the match, Kaiser's just still looking for these good old treasures on the map. We do have 80 XP, 2 Cougars, which even the Cougars themselves, if you take them down, give another 10 XP. So there's 100 XP here, as well as XP graded from his own shipment points. So that should give Kaister 2 shipments back-to-back on age up. If the Wolf scouted the Villager, though, that would have been different. I think Kaister would have known that Flontier is committing to the Advanced Training Post play, and he may have decided to at least deny the very last training post and not be able to scout this one with Flontier's Explorer so close. That is so unfortunate for Kaister.
Yeah, what happened? He was chopping so hard. He's dropping down a market. So he doesn't try to get a second TP, which is a very good thing if you want to deny ATP. And basically just giving Flontier the third trading post for free, not trying to contest that.
Well, he has dropped down a market, but unfortunately he shift-clicked off it straight away, so just the foundations are there. The Iroquois villagers, they're planning to build a market and maybe get around to it at some point in the future, but hopefully that shouldn't delay him too long.
Yeah, they want to improve their economy, but okay, now they're doing it.
I think they'll just decide on who was the unlucky person to actually build the market, and unfortunately this single lass here, she was given the task to build it.
Yeah, that has to be quite exhausting, like hammering away at that thing for 30 seconds straight, and now it's done. Very nice.
Okay, one settler left-hand side has been scouted, and although quite a lot of these units don't do great damage, collectively, though, this villager will go down very, very quickly, especially this Cherokee rifle with... Well, even the rifleman itself has got a negative multiplier versus the settler. Actually, this settler might actually make it back.
I'm not sure about this one. Maybe he has to pull it, but... it's definitely eating a lot of damage, but he didn't get the snare in with the Explorer because the Puma was blocking him, so that might... And now again, blocking the Explorer, so definitely gonna get home now.
But the Explorer does have a faster speed, though, so he may be able to catch up in time, but it looks like the villager will be soon in town centre range. Snare's off into the villager, and maybe he wants to try and pull it with others, but it's very nearby to his own hometown centre. Rifleman and Cherokee starting to fire from behind, but I think it should be fine. Look at this pill trick coming in from Flontier, and yes, into the safety of the town centre straight away.
Yeah, but these boys are still very annoying, shooting at everything out here. And now they have lost their multiplayer, at least the Cherokee has, because that is only in H1. And that's gonna be quite annoying. So many people are in your base already.
Yeah, that's a good spot that the Cherokees restored to normal stats on H2, but one thing Kaister has done, though, or not done, is because he's focusing on the eco and all this in Flontier's main base, he hasn't actually seen where the forward town centre and the barracks of Kaister is, and so I would be surprised to see 5 musketeers soon to be on the floor from Flontier at the north of the map.
Oh, she's gonna die! The low HP villager was too far out hunting and got sniped down. So that's quite unfortunate.
I just like...
Yes, you were saying... Yes?
Yeah, I just like how this army was doing some good damage and the medicine man was just there for support. Just like vocal support.
Yeah, he was like cheering them on. Let's go, guys! Get her! Yeah, the TC and the barracks are in a very nice position to siege on the last trading post, and Stagecoach already being in, and he wants to get that eco rolling. But I wanted to say that he doesn't have the H-up in Q, but he sent 7 hot coin early, so maybe the early disruption paying off a little bit for Kaister because he couldn't get a food as freely as he wanted to.
6 Musketeers being shipped from Flontier to his forward town centre. This is not a normal shipment at this point I'd be expecting from Flontier, especially as he's training Musketeers as well. But it looks like he wants to really tear down his training post as quickly as possible and capture it for himself. But his Explorer's actually quite far behind the rest of this army from the Iroquois. But I think Flontier has also seen that there's no reinforcing canyons or tomahawks, so I guess Kaister's going for a semi-FF on his own accord. And look at this, he does have one war hut down guarding this hunt and coin mines on the left hand side, but he's now queued the age up in. And let's check how he's aging up with. He's going for the messenger, I believe. Yeah, he's going for the fast age up. And this train post as well has been on the stagecoach route for quite a while, so it's definitely paid off, as well as buying all this time to age up behind us safely. So Kaister be very happy with that stagecoach investment early on.
Yeah, and I question if the 6 Musk shipment really was necessary. He would have gotten the TP down anyways, and maybe 600 coin would have sped him up to a faster age up because of course now the tempo is in the Iroquois player's hands, and he can maybe force down some TPs. And Flontier is too much behind because he shipped 6 Musks, and he's now coming into the base trying to snipe something off, but the villagers are safe and close to the TC.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's coming at the completely wrong angle. Like he couldn't have predicted this really, but all the villagers nearby the town centre. He might get 1 or 2 on this coin mine. There's one on the backside of the coin mine, and a few hunting to the top side. Actually, with this large mass of musketeers, it's gonna be 1 shot on the vills. And
he has spotted them now because Kaister dragboxed them a bit awkwardly, and they were slowed down. And gonna lose 1 villager, maybe even 2. Explorer coming in, probably
crack shot.
Yeah. This guy's so ridiculous. I saw him like 1v10 a batch of pikes in another game of the journey. There were like 10 pikes sieging a trading post, and he just killed all of them. And of course, Prowl's getting out, and the muskets are going to be history.
That's a very quick cleanup as well, especially the Iroquois War Chief snaring, and Forest Prowlers popping from the War Hut as well. And hopefully this game isn't lagging too much, actually. I've seen quite a bit of lag between both these players, so hopefully we can get the game smooths out a little bit as we move into the 3rd age. Flontier is aging up straight away behind this and managed to get the age up in queue without having to send either 600 coin or 700 foods. So it has delayed the age up slightly, but with 4 TPs behind this, I think that provided the extra coin income he needed to get the age up. And now that he's got the age up, he's got this extra covered wagon, which he's going to drop, just on the north side of his TP, securing this extra hunt and mine.
Yeah, and he was probably aware that Kaister wants to push his base, so nothing feels worse than losing your wagon or having to place it in an awkward position. So popping it nicely in the north. And a little bit of a freeze coming in here. I'm not sure Kaister can do too much damage here. His army isn't really high siege, and he's going in very far, killing a villager, which is good. But he had sort of like forces everywhere on the map, and you don't really know where to hit them, because they have such strong positions everywhere.
Flontier has 5 castles just popped on the field. Okay, 4 castles. Also has a dragoon in field. 8 castles shipped, as well as another shipment available soon. So he needs to hold out and try and build his mass for the time being. We have 1 Iroquois villager going for a bit of a walk to the far east of the map, joining with the unit. So it looks like Kaister doesn't have easy drag military option on. So this villager is certainly not gathering, but escorting the army with it as well. But this castle pop starting to actually increase in size, and fighting near a town centre should be able to supply town centre fire from these villagers, as well as Minutemen capabilities if he needs to. And these Forest Prowlers do not really want to overcommit, because Flontier's got another shipment on the way, and it should pop very soon.
Yeah, but these like kind of base defense situations are very good for the castles, which have slower rate of fire on the new patch, but higher damage. So if they like can poke in and out whenever they want, and just get strong volleys off that page of, that is very good for them. Now 5 dragoons coming out, getting some anti-cap going.
Quite a few vills still exposed though, so he's just trying to use the vills to soak up some damage while the castles and dragoons try and fire. Minutemen just been called on the other side to try and pin the enemy army down and not retreat it. 4 more castles spawning nearby, and actually there's a huge amount of castles and dragoons here, and he's starting to outmass the Iroquois player. Also,
the Minutemen snaring, so that he can get more damage in.
Minutemen are available from the top town centre as well as need be, but I think he doesn't need it any time being. Minutemen snaring the other Forest Prowlers. Castle's moving as a group and should be able to catch up at this point.
Yeah,
Why
he's
are
lag
these units
boxing.
walking so slow? There's one must be in like a cover mode.
Yeah. Looks like the lag is too much for them.
Well,
So
I've got the stream up, so it
yeah,
would
yeah, I
have to
got
be
it.
Scroogey. So yeah, it was looking really bad.
All right.
I'll catch you in a bit. See if we can get you back into game number 3.
Yes. Okay.
But if not for the time being, great casting of you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. It was a very fun casting with you. Bye bye everybody. Maybe we'll see each other soon. Bye.
It's not goodbye. It's just a farewell until next time.
All right. Farewell.
Alright, see you later, mate.
See you later.
Right, so we're back in. So Kaiser's still in the game, and it would only suggest that Scrooge's left once we get back into it. So I'm just going to let the players know to know that we're ready up to go.
Are you ready? No.
I think we need to pause again once Scroogey has actually left. We can the game can kind of catch up and see who's remaining.
Yes.
Oh, that's a shame. I was really enjoying my time casting Scroogey there, but however, you know, trying to create a lag-free environment for the players is the highest priority for the time being. But that's okay, guys. I'm still here. I'm still be able to cast this game, and my side of things, everything's working well from a technical point of view. So soon this game should carry on, and we'll see how Flontier will try and push his advantage. He does have the 4 TP stagecoach, currently not challenged by Kaister, and Kaister, one shipment down. I think he's just sent a shipment coming back. Will want to try and ungroup his musket riders from his forest prowess to try and pull them away, or if not, sacrifice 1 or 2 of these forest prowess just to save his native Iroquois explorer. But that's a really good pop there from Kaister, from Flontier with his town centre, with the 5 Dragoon pop in the villages soaking damage, to the 4 Castador, 6 Minutemen, and with everything coming in together at the end is what exactly Flontier needed to snare that strong army from Kaister. And I think for the time being, Flontier is carrying the advantage into this game, but we'll have to see how Kaister will come back into once we get the game going.
Are you ready? Yes.
Yeah, Kaiser just pausing the game just to let the game kind of, and let all the connections just sorted out before we get back into.
Yes.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, it should sort itself out after this single spike, but once this goes, we should be back into it. And Minutemen trying to frantically catch up to this army, but not being fast enough. Musketeers turning around to get that, trying to finally pick out this last Minuteman who gets a snare off. Is going to pay off, and wow, that single stab from the Minutemen managed to kill off 2 Forest Prowlers. Obviously, it was the castles from behind, but it certainly looks good at that point. 6 Canyons being shipped from Kaister at his home TP, and this should be enough to try and push back the castles, but there's still 5 Dragoons in the field, and these weren't focused down earlier on. I'm glad that Kaister is staying into remass and not going to push out at a later point. He's maybe thinking of raiding left-hand side, or wants to try and do something from his train post. He's trying his best to navigate around this train post of Flontier and trying to cut in between the 2. As you can see, yes, he cuts right in between the 2. Flontier can't see his raid from the left-hand side, but just exactly where all the military is. This is where all of Flontier's eco is. He's got 2 TC sat here, so Kaiser's not going to find anything too tasty on the left-hand side, but will want to try and raid into the middle of Flontier's home base, where it's currently unprotected, and the Minutemen, I think, from the home town centre has already been used. Possibly not, but if they do call, the Canyons can leave in a quick manner. we still have this settler joined up with these forest prowlers, so he needs to try and set that off. But okay, it looks like the villagers just queued into the coin mine, and the Canyons decides to retreat very quickly. Maybe they wanted to try and get a raid on the left-hand side with his hunt and coin mine, but couldn't find anything, and so decided to retreat. I think Flontier may have just seen that on the left-hand side, though, so Flontier may want to change how he does, but Flontier does not need to push out. He has forced TP Stagecoach. These are also advanced trading posts, so they will take ages for it to be sieged down, and the Iroquois doesn't have very easy access to any siege. And let's check Kaiser's deck if he has any manslets in deck. He has no manslets or the rams, so we'll need to build himself a artillery or siege workshop, shall I say, if he wants to build any rams and mantlets to try and take down the siege of the advanced trading posts. Elite Canyons have now come in for Kaister, and we still see these Forest Prime units in a group together. Not too many on the field. We do have Canyons and Forest Prowlers being trained to try and increase this, and in this momentary downtime, looks like Kaister is going to work his way on a 320 XP treasure, and this should be taken out very, very quickly for all these Fortress Age units. And is he going to manage to pick up a... Yes, he's managed to pick up a 34 HP Outlaw Rider, so maybe he wanted to split off his army to which one he's taken down. But this is buying Flontier all the time he needs, especially with his 3 town centres continuously working and looking at it in queue. He's got batch of 3 currently going, and once he gets 300 wood food, he may get another batch going. Nearly 1,000 coin as well to send Mamelukes if he wants to ship a mercenary shipment behind this. Kaister's army is starting to slowly push out across the map, led by the Kanya horsemen. A few forest prowlers out front leading the way. We do have the coyote, converted coyote as well, and these Kanyas will see these castles and be quite happy to see that. But there's a large mass of dragoons behind this, especially the 2 organ guns will tear down these forest prowlers as well. So we're looking to one big engagement now underneath these 2 town centres of Flontier, and it looks like Kaiser's committing at this point. Kanya's leading the way onto the castles, but there's so many dragoons here that I think he's just kind of gone a bit too early with his Kanyas. Forest Prowlers behind, trying to focus down these dragoons, but organ guns nicely protected behind the dragoon line and getting great shots on the Forest Prowler line, and these armies just falling apart for Kaister, and Flontier picks up a very quick second game there. So Flontier taking that second game there, and really good army control from the castles, dragoons, positioning from the organ guns behind the dragoons, buildings as well. But I think the Kanya's charging a little bit too early. But I guess it was just a combination of the amount of dragoons as well as the siege potential from Flontier as well. I think the biggest thing which won the game for Flontier was his early advanced trading post control, and I think with Iroquois' ability to convert Guardians as well as rescuing units like the Outlaw Pistolero, the Outlaw Rifleman, Medicine Man, and a few of the other animals as well, I think Kaiser could have done his best to try and at least maintain Flontier's control of his TPs to at least 2 trading posts to start off with Age 2, but once Flontier had the 3rd trading post under his control, he just shipped the Stagecoach and had a eco advantage from the Stagecoach, as well as then pushing out on the map with his town centre barracks, taking on the 4th trading post. And once he had the 4 TP Stagecoach and then the 2 town centres working for him, I think Flontier's economy just was accelerating further and further away from Kaister, and managed to see this game out with a stronger military as a result of his really good early game eco, bolstered by his trading posts. Looking at the military unit count as well, we can see early on that there's quite a few military units on the field for Kaiser, and these were the converted units. And for quite a while, Flontier was in the second age with no military units on present, but managed to train 4 and then ship 6 musketeers to the front town centre to get that 4th training post under his own control before researching Stagecoach. But both players going for like a kind of a semi-FF style here, and Kaister did not train any more Tomahawks or Canyons behind this, and kind of gave the entire control to Flontier without challenging any parts of the Stagecoach, whether it's in the second age, whether it's the TP's left-hand side. So extra control could have come in there, but due to quite a lot of possible lag earlier on, as well as good positioning from Flontier and drawing Kaister underneath his second town centre, this batch of Minutemen, the Castadors, the Dragoon shipments, basically caught the Iroquois army underneath his town centre, and at this point, it was very tough for kaister to come back in with the lower military pop and lower eco pop. Yeah, a few guys just also commenting that possibly a strategy win for the Portuguese player in that match, instead of whether one player was outplaying the other. And the third game in this series is going to be on Florida, and it's again up for Flontier to pick his first civ, and looks like Flontier has gone for has restarted his either PC or just gone off Age of Empires, and is going to soon be joining us again into game number 3. I guess this time I'll have a quick look in the chat while we're waiting for the Flontier to come back into the game. Yeah, I think it's just commenting on how the Iroquois did a naked FF with no military units, just to try and put any pressure onto B Winner. And I think if there was any chance of forcing that town centre of not B Winner, of Flontier a little bit behind the trading line instead of on top of the TP line, then maybe TP control moving forward into that game could have been a little bit easier for kaister moving forward. Especially both those town centres next to each other. I think it would be very difficult for kaister to come back into that and push into those two town centres. And we need to kind of see how we're going to go into Age 3 and see what Flontier is going to pick for his third age, because he's already played the Spanish and Portuguese now, so maybe we go for... It's hard to comment on actually what he plays. I don't actually know too much of what both these players play, actually, kaister and Flontier. Flontier is back into the game, and he's elected to pick the French on Florida, so taking a leaf out of Kaiserkind's book of always picking French on this map, and it does have some tendencies to favour a French pick, especially all the sheep on the map, the long trading route, the in-base market. So it's up for kaister to see how he wants to change his civ, and again, Iroquois could be a decent pick versus the French, and he's gone for the Dutch civilization, and in my books, this is a slightly French favoured as well. So instead of being able to counterpick Flontier, this could be actually playing to Flontier's hands. So we have to see if kaister's logging in, and yes, he's clicking in to accept a Dutch. Well, obviously Flontier has no choice, but it looks like kaister's clicking in to accept a Dutch versus French matchup onto Florida. So match point for Flontier. I think possible civ matchup advantage for him as well, but kaister must be very familiar with Dutch to be ready to be picking this matchup on this map, so hoping to see what kaister has in the bag to come back and take it to 2-1. One, two. There's 3 safe hunts. That's same. That's 2, 3, 1, 2. That's a starting hunt actually. Starting hunt. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Possible third hunt, slightly close for Flontier at this point, but it shouldn't be too bad. Quite exposed at the front. But this is a small hunt at the back, so we're going to play this, I think. Looks like Flontier's pausing just to let the game load in before we continue. We'll see what the players want before we fully commit to this game.
Yes.
So I'm unsure if kaister's going to continue this. Maybe he's just I'm unsure what a black screen would mean. Whether it's the map hasn't loaded for him, or maybe it's an issue of a monitor. Hopefully it's not hardware issue and just a little glitch. And it looks like kaister's backing out this one. So I think we're just going to leave this game and re-log for another one. I'm going to hop out this game straight away. And looks like Kaister's been dropped out and the game's going to end up. And we're going to re-host this one. French flavoured. I know it's. I think I've said this before a few times, but sometimes you're in the moment, and when you're saying French, which has the F and then another letter afterwards, it's sometimes the tongue kind of wants to continue or say another word of similar sounding. But I guess I don't know where the flavour comes out really. Like that's a weird word to pick out. Any word you could pick up, that's probably the weirdest word one to pick. Flontier's back in. Got the computer slot for me available, so hopefully we'll see our opponent Kaister come back in again sometimes. But so we've seen both Flontier and Kaister having to restart the system, so essentially players having not the best time in terms of technical department. But once we start back onto game number 3, it should be smooth sailing from there on in, and hopefully we have a very entertaining game 3 for you guys. Oh, Green Devil, you know I absolutely love a good old brown bear, especially Honcho the pet bear, the one with the 27 times by 3. Such a strong animal that is. But I gotta say, rather impartial to a brown bear as well. I think Iroquois would be a pretty decent pick actually to go against Flontier. I can't remember what Kaister actually picked. Maybe it was Iroquois. I kind of didn't pay enough attention at that point. But yeah, if tapped out while loading.
Yes.
Yes, he picked the Dutch, didn't he? Yes, he's going for the Dutch again. And you can see how his game crashed because when he joined into the lobby, it went into Iroquois and is now manually, because that's what he played last game. He's now manually changed it back down to Dutch. So I'm ready to go, and looks like once Kaister's ready to go, we'll jump into game number 3 on Florida. Now, guys, we have none of that in chat. We don't need the IP checker meme coming back again. We had the observer mode checked, we have the recorded game, free for all, so we're all ready from this side from a technical point of view to hop into game number 3. And, you know, Kaiser's 2-0 down, so I wonder how he's going to approach this. Is he going to try and play as safe as possible and go for a very standard build, or is he going to, maybe push the barrel out and try something different just to kind of throw Flontier off his normal pace? But we've seen a very strong performance from Flontier so far in the first 2 games. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. But these are all safe hunts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, this is 5. I don't like no one 3 versus 5. I don't like offering rehosts, but especially when quite a lot of these hunts are behind the town centre and rather safe. And this is match point for Kaister, so I want the game to be as balanced as possible. Okay, they're gonna play. Yes.
Yes.
Welcome back, guys. My name's Harrison, and we're joined into game number 3 here between Flontier and Kaister. Flontier is spawning to the top right of the map and is playing as the French civilization, and he won his previous game as the Portuguese on Arizona and has decided to pick the French, and this is a play we've seen quite often throughout this tournament of players picking French in this matchup, and it's one of the plays which kaiserclan has done quite often. Kaister, on the other hand, has decided to counter-pick with the Dutch civilization, so maybe this is a civ that Kaister is very comfortable with, and be excited to see what Kaister is going to bring out in this third game, which he really needs to get a point on the board, because this is match point for Flontier. Kaister's explores on the top left of the map, and he's already picked himself up, or at least scouted where native food treasure is, as well as picking up Cameron, the Spanish war dog. So that should really help his ability to pick up treasures. But where are you going, Kaister? Pick up the treasure. Do not leave it. Kaister, no, come back. Come back. Yeah, there you go. You wouldn't want to leave that treasure on the floor for Flontier to pick up. But what has Flontier seen? He's gone and picked himself a 100 XP treasure to the south side, and that was actually very critical for him to get his first shipment in that little bit faster. So hopefully, yes, he's got the shipment underway, house in queue, 12-10 over popped, but should be able to train his 13th settler very shortly afterwards. Flontier has is aware that he's at a slight map disadvantage in terms of hunts, and he's happy to play a 3 versus 5 hunts situation versus Kaister. As you can see from Kaister has quite a few of these safe back hunts. Flontier is aware of the map though. He has scouted to both the bottom side, and this sheep has actually done really good work picking up the back of Kaister's base, but it should allow a lot of scouting. Kaister did find 90 coin with his war dog, and with his market he could be able to chop an extra bit of coin just to get to buy 100 wood in transition to get his bank down in transition a little bit faster. We may want to save that for settler production in H2. Flontier though has already got the early hunting dogs, but a market house slightly earlier than planned. 3 CDB shipment as well, very beneficial for Flontier. He'd be very happy with that. 230 shipment coming in from Kaister, so actually slightly delayed than normally you'd expect. And Kaister's also gone for the hunting dogs, but he's eating one of these sheep, so I think Kaister really wants to try and utilize these sheep early on just to try and get the bank up and ready to go as soon as possible. The sooner that bank goes up, the sooner the rest of the Dutch eco can start rolling. So it looks like he's just going to eat the one sheep. Yeah, just the one sheep. And wow, Flontier, 100 coin. Very useful for the French player. And with 165 in base and having 12 on gathering food, he may want to actually start building this. He may want to buy some wood to actually start building this trading post. His explorer's nearby. He's scouting around his safe back gold mine. He actually has 2 safe gold mines, so I think Flontier will be very happy with his gold mine situation, and certainly one advantage he has over Kaister. But then Kaister being Dutch, I don't assume he'll be used too many coin mines in the early portion of the game. Yeah, I did let the players know the hunt situation and offered Flontier a re. Flontier is happy to play on this situation, and yeah, Kaister has the map advantage with a lot of safe hunts, so he looks like he's starting to get a bit of herding going down both this deers and this deer hunt as well. So hopefully Kaister can get some of these hunts safe under his town centre. But Flontier's got his 3 starting hunts under his TC control as well as all these sheep. So a lot of food available for Flontier. And what do we see? We see a dock. Time out, guys. We see a dock instead of a trading post going up for Flontier. Flontier is going for a dock, and if I check Kaister's deck, we see a standard deck with it does have schooners and the 3 fleets in deck. However, Flontier, what shenanigans are we going to see? Ooh. 0 water cards, so this is a bluff and a half from Flontier. If Kaister sees Flontier's deck, there is 0 way he would basically scout or just imagine that Flontier is going for a dock to supplement his eco. So this is a really interesting deviation from Flontier, and maybe possibly a sneaky reason why Flontier didn't necessarily want to go for the rehost earlier on. Flontier's native scouts currently in Kaister's base and seeing what's going on, and seeing the age up with the 400 wood, seeing the second bank go down, and this is standard play for most Dutch players, regardless of what's build order they want to do. I guess versus more Russian civs, you may want to drop down a stable or barracks and 2 houses with that 400 wood, but 700 wood does come in, lets them to drop a stable behind this, and should have enough resources to drop down a 3rd bank as well very soon afterwards. and Flontier has retreated to scout and won't have that information at hand. I've missed if the envoy of Kaister actually scouted this dock placement of Flontier, but Flontier has put this dock in the furthest corner of the map with the specific intention to not be scouted, and may actually want to move his CDB as well, because if the CDB gets scouted with no hunt nearby, then maybe the dock will get scouted as well, or certainly lead Kaister into checking the water. First shipment for Flontier, 700 wood. As you would expect if you're going for some sort of water play, you need that wood to invest into fishing boats, but the French do not have access to schooners, so these train at the regular rate of, I believe it's like 25 seconds per boat, so it will take a while for getting a decent size of fishing boats out, and especially if he's only massing on a single dock. He does have a barracks in the queue as well, so he may want to, also stable, so let's see what he's got. He's gone for a full 5 hussar batch, and that's actually quite impressive how he's managed to get 5 hussars, as well as going for a stock dock, a couple of fishing boats, barracks, stable. So yeah, he's delayed to 4 CDB. He hasn't got steel traps yet, so maybe it's something he wants to invest in later. French players scouted this hussar mass, but he also knows there's a tomahawk and a war dog nearby. He doesn't want to engage this. He wants to back off for the time being. Yeah, so both players have seen each other. They've got 5 hussars on the field, but playing nice, gentleman's agreement, and wants to back away from any possible engagements. And I think Kaister should have actually forced the engagement there a little bit. He does have the war dog to support, as well as this tomahawk, which for a treasure pickup, having range and hand attack multipliers versus cavalry units, because this is the Nila Native American warrior version of the Iroquois tomahawk. I think Kaiser could have done really well trading versus this hussars. Flontier has shipped 4 CDBs and 700 coin behind this, and is not training any extra units as well, so he's just going to use the 700 coin to age up. Flontier's also eaten the sheep, and yes, he had 7 sheep beforehand, but now he's only down to 2, so he's used the sheep and the coin to get the age up in queue behind his 5 hussar production, and this fish play from Flontier is just getting larger and larger by the second. Kaiser is not aware of this, but he does have the 3 fleets to send if he wants to, and the 3 fleets will clean this up, but will, at a cost of having a little less momentum on the land engagements. There's nothing else to see so far, actually. Flontier does have a native scout in his 2 hunts, so you can see essentially where Kaiser's eco is, but because of the herding and how the Dutch eco works, Kaiser's entire eco is safely tucked up inside his town centre and within its inner ring of buildings, so no raiding coming in from either player, and yeah, both players are just going to train 5 huss, respect each other's other military units, and just advance to the fortress age. Let's see what Kaiser's going to ship as his first card. I think because he's been unattacked in the colonial age, he may feel safe enough to get a 1,000 wood shipments in, and that should get his houses going down, maybe a veteran hussar upgrade, 5th bank, second barracks, maybe a training post if he wanted to feel too far-fetched, but possibly late for a training post now. And units in queue's gone for Reuters, skirmishers, and he needs a lot of vills on coin actually. If he wants to go more unit production of skirmishers and Reuters, he's going to need a lot of coin, and pushing out with 5 hussars on its own is risky actually. We do see dragoons on the field, skirmishers, and the hussars of Flontier already in the field, so these hussars actually might get picked off for free, so you've got to be careful. Getting on top of the skirmishers, but backing away. But one being snared, another one being picked off by dragoons, and so he's actually lost a lot of HP there for not a lot really. That was a bit risky from Kaister. A 1,000 wood comes in for Kaiser as predicted, so what's he going to do with his wood? He's starting to gather up with 4 vills, and yes, the 5th bank's coming down now. Do we see any veteran hussar tech coming in? He may want to go for vet hussars, train more hussars, or he's going for steel traps. He hasn't got his entire markup tech. Another house, another production building would be very nice as well, so possibly another stable or a 2nd barracks, and that should stabilise him off into kick to help his way into age 3. And Flontier has actually replied with an 8 skirmisher, so maybe because he was up that slightly little later than Kaister was, he may think that lots of Reuters will be pushing across the map, and so the 8 skirmishers would help him stabilise. But that's not the case actually. these fishing boats, we got 3, 7, 10. Actually, at this point, Flontier really needs to research the gill nets for the fishing boats. It's really, really beneficial to research gill nets when you have 8 to 10, and training many more fishing boats without the gill nets is more detriment to the economy than actual researching fishing nets. And it looks like actually a few of these boats is gathering coin as well, so a mixture of food and coin income from these fishing boats to supplement the French player's eco. And again, unscouted by the Dutch player. As Dutch, you probably wouldn't expect the French player to go for a dock, and so the longest leaves this. And I think if Flontier knows that he's got his extra eco on the floor, he may want to play really passive at this point. 2 Falconets on the field, and once this army groups together, I think Flontier is going to have a slight military edge, especially as there's nothing really for Kaiser to challenge these 2 Falconets, especially with his large mass of dragoons and skirmishers on the field already. Falconet shots coming in, picking off 1 skirmisher as well. There's going to be a bit of splash damage on the rest of the skirmishers as well. Checking on the HP there, and quite a few of them have had a bit of splash damage. Both the Falconets, though, untouched from Kaister, and we move on to the Fortress Age. A big raid from the top side. Flontier reacts faster than I do, pulls the villagers back, but sends all his dragoons out to these 5 hussars, and it's a big raid. But look at this, he's exposed in the centre. All his counter cavalry are away from the Falconets, and the Falconets are just running for their lives. Yes, he's just quickly decided to pull back. He knows that the Falconets are more important than a couple of vills, and actually, Kaiser needs to try and get hand combat at this point. And yes, he's hand combating these Falconets. He's going to trade off his entire route mass for the Falconets, but if this Falconet goes down, it's worth it. If it doesn't, it's not, and it does. I think Kaiser will be very happy with that trade so far, but look at this. 3 hussars earlier. This is what happens when you trade away your entire anti-cavalry. The cavalry, which you just seen from the other player, is still alive, and actually is being snared by the French player, and there's no reinforcement raiders, and I was hoping a bit more of a follow-up from the Kaiser behind this, but quite a lot of his Dutch villagers are out in the open, and Kaiser needs to pull back as a matter of urgency. 9 reiters shipped, as well as 5 being trained, but so many skirmishers have gone down as well, and units lost in terms of skirmishers. It's 22 down for Kaiser versus 5 of Flontier, and Flontier now has the military population, as well as starting to slowly edge his way into a economic lead. I think Flontier should continue with his fishing production on the east side, and I can understand though why he's not committing any further though. If a enemy shipment of the 3 fleets came in, or a dock dropped in, it's a lot of eco to lose very quickly from the Dutch player. 5 banks, 32 villages for Kaister, and good upgrades as well behind this with the steel traps and placer mines as well, a gang saw, and probably the same upgrades for the Courrier de Bar. And Flontier does not have steel traps, and if Flontier knows that he doesn't have steel traps, he would research it straight away. So a bit of a shame that Flontier hasn't got the steel traps and is unaware of it. But now massing in some cuirassiers at the same time, and having 4 in the field with 18 dragoons, 18 skirmishers. Kaiser still has more skirmishers though. Like, he lost in lots of skirmishers mid-map, but Flontier is not actually ahead in the skirmisher count. A 3 cuirassier shipment pop from the TC, as well as another 3 cuirassiers in Keith and Stable. So potentially having about 10 cuirassiers on the field very, very soon after, and looks like Flontier is pushing his dragoons and skirmishers forward into this mass and wants to try and catch these skirmishers when they're so far from home. More skirmishers reinforcing, and a batch of 5 trained from Flontier, but he needs to try and position his cavalry in a way so that he actually can catch the skirmishers and make sure that the roiters stick around. But these roiters are moving back to their base very fast, and there we go, 3 flights being shipped from the Dutch player. I assume he scouted this, and he'll see the 3 fishing boats and go, what on earth is going on the sea? And it's going to completely shut down this water play. Flontier has no frigate capability of his own, and he does not have the resources to train a frigate. In the mid-map, cuirassiers on top of the skirmishers. Skirmishers out of position. Needs to fall behind the raiders as an urgency. There's so many cuirassiers on the field, actually. Dragoons and cuirassiers on top of the raiders, and actually, it's just a case of all the military units on top of the Dutch eco, and the Dutch desperately needs to reinforce his position and try and trade as best he can. But still, 5 cuirassiers on the skirmishers. These skirmishers are just falling over, and not many raiders available on the field anymore. Skirm's still standing, getting caught by this Dutch explorer. Dragoon's doing quite a bit of work, but all the actual cuirassiers are down now, and you know, kaister really needs to reinforce his rotor count, just protect that, you know, even more cuirassiers are not coming in. He now knows that there's a bit of efficient eco from Flontier on the sea, and if he looked at the scores and saw that he's out 50 points ahead, I think kaister may realise that actually, once this is taken down, he would have the eco lead and may not need to push so hard as this game moves forward. Wicked Cossack saying he loves seeing stealth water booms. It's very nice to see when they pull off, but the problem with the stealth water booms is once you get contested and you have no way to respond, then it looks kind of silly at the same time. But I think Flontier got a good amount of resources out for his investment, but for some reason hasn't really been able to translate that into a stronger military presence on the land. And it looks like kaister, with his 5 bank eco, infantry combat skirms now coming in, as well as this larger military population and eco from the Dutch side. I think kaister's in the driving seat to get a point back on the board. Nowhere near to being over just yet, though. We do have Flontier moving out on the left-hand side. You know, may want to ship a crate shipment of his own. He did send the 7 skirms of himself, but I think at this point, even though it's quite late, a 1,000 wood shipment or a 1,000 coin shipment, probably the coin more specifically than the wood, would be very useful here to, you know, help actually bolster this massive and further. And he's finally dropping in that second barrack. That's probably why Flontier has been behind the skirm count for so long, which it's great that now that the extra barracks have been added, but in this case, you know, is it really that useful? You're up against skirmishers which have, you know, infantry combat on, and Flontier doesn't have access. Well, he has access to both the skirm cards, the wilderness warfare and team range infantry attack. So both those cards together is essentially the equivalent of kaister's infantry combat, but because infantry combat gets the attack and HP all in one, that's why infantry combat is the far superior card in this case. Flontier for the time being is very content of moving to left hand side and sitting on his hunting eco as well as his extra mine. He's gone through his 2 back mines. The extra mine which kaister didn't have available to him. He's only had this single back mine and the one in base, and this second one's gone out. But you know, with his military control, he can just push forward onto the front mines. That doesn't bother kaister. He wants Flontier to push towards him, and especially now with cavalry combat coming behind us as well. And soon with this eco, it might come to the stage of dropping an arsenal, and maybe it's the something kaister would like to do to get the ranged cavalry Caracol upgrade coming in soon. Kaister moving his army around to the left-hand side of the Seminole settlement, but now being picked up by the, or scouted at least by the Explorer. The Explorer didn't stand on the field for that much longer, but knows exactly where Flontier's army is. And look at his position from the skirmishers. Is either about to get really ugly. Oh, the Reuters out of position. Courier says, moving on to the skirmishers. This is going to be a bloodbath. The Courier says, heavy cavalry on top of the skirmishers. 3 down already. And Reuters are frantically moving in position, but skirmishers and dragoons trying their best to catch up on the right-hand side. And look at these Courier says on top of the skirmishers at this point. And most of them are falling down, but lots of Reuters moving down as well. And you know, a few CDBs here as well. Minutemen trying to tank as best. And this has been a really good catch by Flontier. Will it be enough to put him back into the game? I think so, actually. Look at these skirmishers. Quite a few of them hand combat, trying to hand combat this cuirassier down. And we still have 2 cuirassiers, units in queue for the French player to be able to reinforce again if needed. And yeah, these units are running for their lives. They're outmassed at this point, outmassed and outgunned. A few settlers as well, out of position, could get picked down. With reinforcing dragoons from Flontier, I'm getting confused which angles the units are moving. And quite a lot of villagers now on the right-hand side, but gathering in the safety of the 3 fleets. The fleets themselves able to train units, I believe, and so should be able to provide extra stable production if need be. And that's probably where the reinforcing raiders came in, I think, from the previous fight. Another coin mine being eaten by Flontier, and may want to split some of these villas to go onto this mine and some onto this mine, so that at least the coin income is essentially preserved for that little bit longer. But we see more skirms pushing in, and 4 hussars coming from Kaister as well. Finally, the veteran upgrade and the cavalry combat. We'd like to see more hussars in the field. This is the unit he really wants actually to try and detest from Flontier going pure cuirassiers. Oh, large reinforcement batch from the fleets from the right-hand side, and this large batch of 10 hussars should be enough to actually pick up most of these skirmers as well as pin down his cuirassiers for the Raiders to take on. So the Raiders focusing down the cuirassiers, and once the cuirassiers go down, we've got 10 hussars on the field on top of these skirmishers, and only 3 dragoons trying to reinforce. And these floats come in absolute clutch with their off-coast training support. Hussars pushing forward onto this skirmisher mass. Skirmishers moving in behind and get enough cover by the hussars, and Flontier's army is pinned down, especially with the hussars flaring, stronger skirms poking away, and Reuters picking off any extra cavalry support that the French player has, and trading at this point with how many 19 versus 25 upgraded skirms. I think Kaister is actually doing his best to keep this lead and pushing it forward. Couple of CDVs being pulled into the fight, and let's see how many units in queue there are on the field. We do have 5 cuirassiers in the queue, and at the moment there's only 1 Reuter in queue, 3 hussars as well as a small batch of Reuters. But the 5 cuirassiers might be enough to actually stabilize, maybe not entirely clean up due to the hussars and Reuters available. I'm sure reinforcements will be here soon enough, and another batch of 4 hussars from one of the fleets. Cuirassiers taking down these villagers who are very far from home, but they were gathering near the safety of the 3 ships on the coast for Kaister. But another coin mine going down for the Dutch player, and he really needs to protect this coin mine at all costs, and has quite a lot of food in the bank as well, so certainly he's got lots of resources to spend if he needs to. Three hussars still in queue for Kaister. I wonder if he's still got in queue from the floats. Let's have a look. We do have hussars pathing onto the cuirassiers. Cuirassiers pinned down, not moving too much. A few Reuters on the field, but this is actually not enough from Kaister. He's actually handing the military advantage to the French player. He's actually he's trying to trade off his units. He knows he's got the better eco. He's going to try and trade off as he can, but actually, he's actually starting to lose some of that ground he's gained from earlier on, and maybe a 10 hussar pop as well we really needed. And what do we see here? Taunt 31 incoming in the chat, please. 10 more hussars reinforcing from the right hand side. We've got lots of CDBs here, skirmishers, no cavalry support anywhere nearby, 2 cuirassiers to be trained, but military units on the field. There's only 2 dragoons, so 10 hussars is going to absolute town on the eco and skirmishers of Kaiser. There's absolutely no reinforcing from no reinforcements from Flontier to protect his skirmisher line. A few skirmishers from Dutch moving in to try and take down the dragoons. Idleville's left hand side for Flontier. Idleville is in the town centre as well, and these hussars are now moving on to the eco left hand side. And the 5 cuirassiers have popped out and will take on these skirmishers, but look at these hussars. It's the mobility that Kaister has, and where did these 4 cuirassiers come from? It's just a side sable, left side sable. So 9 cuirassiers out on the field for Flontier, and maybe Kaiser's now going to transition to pure cavalry army with hussars and Reuters. We got to see what's units in queue for Flontier, because this is still getting really close. Cavalry combat's been in for the French player for quite a while. Infantry attack as well for the skirmishers. So upgrades coming in left, right, and centre for both players, and this is actually starting to. I still think it's Dutch favoured, but Flontier has done well to kind of stay in as well at this point. But yeah, slight eco advantage for Kaister will always give him the advantage of being able to reinforce his army, especially as the banks, they don't move, they're always gathering. And here, yes, the arsenal is in, so he hasn't got the infantry breastplate yet, or the ranged cavalry caracol, so that must be something he's looking to get in very soon. And tech's being researched, not in just yet, but oh, large massive Reuters absolutely just picked off by the cuirassiers there. So we got to see where this cavalry army from the Dutch player is moving, and it looks like he's just wanting to try again and face. That's an 8 crossbow shipment. 8 crossbows shipped from Flontier. He could have sent the Wilderness Warfare card or the Cav HP, but decided to go for 8 crossbows, and certainly a bit indifferent about this shipment. 8 Colonial Expos at 24 minutes is slightly less than ideal. Just look at the chat's reaction to the Taunt 31. I can't believe I did that. Skirmishers standing guard on top of the silver mine, and Kaiser really needs to protect his eco at all costs. He's The only way he's going to lose this if he gets massive raid from Cuirassiers, and here we go. 8 Cuirassiers left side with the Expos and Dragoons. 5 villagers out of queue, and again, skirmishers front line. You don't want skirmishers front line, you want to tuck them behind the Hussars and Raiders. Hussars and Raiders on top of the Cuirassiers, and yes, Kaister has done it. Kaister's pulled this game back, and it's currently 2-1 for Flontier. Kaister's managed to stay a little longer in the series, and you know, the reverse sweep is possible on here for Kaister. Really good showing from the Dutch player, and I'm actually unsure, you know, Flontier did get the early eco from the sea, but I'm unsure how he couldn't really transition to a stronger military early fortress age as a result of that extra eco investments in the early age too. But yeah, really good play from Kaister. He was the first person to actually get the infantry upgrade cards, or just upgrade cards in general, and had both the infantry and cav combat before cav combat of French player to come out. But as the game on, more cards came out, and I'm not too sure if the actual any Arsenal text actually came in for the Dutch. But yeah, it looks like Flontier took a few trades which wasn't so well for him. Looking at villager population, obviously Flontier having, you know, stronger villas as well because of the CDB, but this doesn't include the banks. A bit of an explosion early mid colonial age with the 4 CDB and the bank and the settlers and ships coming out, but you know, once the mid game came in, the 3 fleets came onto the sea to take back the sea control. The villager population was eco, so you know, Flontier had the stronger villagers, I guess, but the banks really helped the was it Dutch player to stabilize, not stabilize, but just continuously generate that coin he needs. And we look at that. If you look at the coin total, you just see how it's just continuous and undisrupted coin income from the Dutch player, where we see a few little hiccups along the way from the French player, like here, there, and here, as villagers have to move around, and you know, that really hurts your reinforcements, especially if you're trying to get a batch and you can only pop 1 skirmisher, 1 cuirassier. Military population, and you see that once we get into the 3rd age, it's actually some alright trades for both players. This is a really good trade for Kaister in the second fight in the 3rd age, but at this point as well, this is after the fleets have taken back control of the sea, and you can just tell that Flontier's reinforcements are really hurt as a result, especially because he didn't have the steel traps for the entirety of the game, or at least for the majority of the game. Equal trades here and there, but once the upgrades start coming out at 17 minutes, both the infantry and cav at this point, reinforcements, you can just see how Flontier's army starts to fall apart quite a bit, and cavalry combat does come in, but it's just not enough to protect, especially when quite a lot of these villas here were skirmishes going down, and a lot of these military populations were skirmishes going down of Kaister as well, of Flontier. So you know, many fights through that game, so that's a really, really good game. I hope you guys enjoyed that one, because I absolutely loved that one. And finally, all resources gathered. The fishing kind of helped Flontier try and maintain with Kaister, but I think if Flontier managed to get the steel traps and could have gone for a stagecoach play instead of fishing, I think the eco would be much closer, and Flontier would have more stuff on the field early age 3, and I think maybe could have had the initiative moving forward. Right, I'm going to hop out that one. Well, hopefully the sound for that game was really good. I had to turn everything up for when Scrooge was co-casting earlier, so hopefully the game sounds wasn't too much. I did turn down the in-game sounds, I think, to compensate, so hopefully it wasn't too loud. I haven't seen anything too bad on the other side. Retake Constantinople. Wrong time period. But the enthusiasm is always appreciated. I think the in-game sounds are pretty good, so we'll just carry on as it is. So Kaiser's managed to win that game. It looks like he's... Wait, hold on. Kaiser can't play French. Oh, wait, no. Kaister played Dutch. Flontier played French. Kaister won Dutch, so he's playing French now. So it looks like Flontier's going for the German counterplay here as well. Oh, I turned that off earlier for the for my own stream. Guys, if you absolutely love that game and want to show some fantastic appreciation to the ESOC community and all we offer you guys on the weekends and try to do our very best each week, and possibly, especially when the tournament series are on, think about passing us a little bit of a small donation to help us on the way. We do have future events always planned in the pipeline, but it's the community support as always which can help us moving forward. I have also allowed the browser alerts to come in as well, so hopefully we should see that moving forward. But we are about to hop into game number 4 between Kaister and Flontier. Oh, why did I double click that? That's okay, looks like we're hopping into game there and it hasn't affected the launch of the game. What is up, guys? My name is Harrison and we're joined into game number 4 between Kaister and Flontier. Kaister managed to win the last game as the Dutch on Florida and has now chose to pick as the French civilization on Arkansas. His opponent Flontier, who's still on match point from his previous victories as the Spanish and the Portuguese, has now chosen to play as the Germans on this game on Arkansas. I believe it was just a food crate for both players. There's no extra wood or coin available, and so we might not see much of a market. So we're seeing market come down for the Germans. I'm wondering if the French players are going to go market as well. For the time being, maybe not. But it's we can see how the players move on. It may depend on what treasures they find in the first stage as well. And speaking of treasures, it looks like the French player has straight away picked himself up an 80 food on the map. So good start there from Kaiser, and that could afford him some time to chop some wood if he needs to get some wood if he wants it for the market. But I think at this point he's made his bed, he's committing to just a single house, and there's extra food available on the map to be picked up. Especially if he comes across his 70 food treasure as well, he may want to go for a 13-vil age up once he's picked up 150 food worth of treasures on the map. Actually, have a quick check around the treasures on the map as well. We do see the CDB guard by 4 black bears, always spawns, two stray dogs, a single stray dog, a medicine man. Flontier's nearby. He has now seen this treasure picked up by Kaister, but Kaister's picked it up. But look at this HP. Really low HP from Kaister, and you shouldn't turn and fight this. You just need to run. If you stand and fight, you're going to get picked off. And Kaister does have the native scout as well, so maybe he wants to bring the native scout in to try and push away Flontier's explorer. And yeah, Flontier just trying to get a bit of range advantage there, cutting the corner, but couldn't get shot in before the edge of the cliff, so has to turn back. So yeah, good treasures early on for Kaister. Let's see what Flontier's got. He's got himself about 90 coin, 120 coin. Yeah, Kaister's got a lot of coin, and actually may have used some of that coin himself to buy the woods needed to get the house going down. And Flontier is far away from actually aging up, where Kaister's going for a 12-10. Hold the phone. Look at this age up time from Kaister. 12-10. All villagers onto foot as well. And I don't think he actually had much idle time, to be honest, especially going for really early age up. Managed to get in the 3 couriers just about now, and did build a house, so he didn't exactly need... So he just did a 12-10 based on a fast age, not necessarily 12-10, but he didn't have any... He didn't build a house, so he's limited to 12-10. So, Kaiser's going to be up super early before Flontier. So early that he actually won't have a shipment in queue, and actually might need some of these explorers. And actually, this Cougar, is it going to go down? It's going to be close, and Kaiser's explorer lives with 26 HP, and is going for the Cherokee as well. So, Cherokee trading post being healed up by the native medicine man, and possibly actually wants to transition this to a early 4... Either the 4 settlers with the Cherokee Syllabary Library upgrade, or go for the Golden Basket for the free upgrades in the market. So both techs really benefiting French's position at this point. And Flontier's only just clicked up to age up now, so he'll be certainly a minute behind Kaister at the very least. Kaister aging up with a fantastic time of 3 minutes 14. I don't think that's really hurting too much in terms of the population. You can see that the recalc on age up was 15 against 17, and he's just sent his first shipment. So it could either be early 3 hus, but I think because of his play with the Cherokee, he wants to send the 700 wood first. But would you though, especially if you go for the whoops, alt tab there. Especially if you're going for the yeah, I just wanted alts. Especially if you wanted to go for the Cherokee basket. You don't need the woods there for the market techs. You do need 200 wood for the settlers, but that's provided for the 4 villas and age up. So you may want to just do the. I guess you would need wood now if you want to drop the actual market down and houses, because you spend all this wood on the houses and the stable, but not enough wood available for the actual research to come in. Let's see actually what's going in for Kaister. He's going for the. Place of mines now. Text completed. Yeah, so he just went for the basket weaving. So it's going for the upgrades now from the market with no wood cost, which is really, really, really nice. Especially going for the later market on the 12-10 age up, but saving the Cherokee basket weaving for later points. Kaiser with his full HP now, thanks to the medicine man, is feeling confident enough to take this CDB treasure as well, especially the extra attack that the explorers get on the second age. And 4 villas coming in behind us for Kaister as first shipment, as well as the all these upgrades coming in without any wood cost. This is actually a really good start from Kaister. I actually think this could be a build order to note for future use for other players. Saves all that chopping of woods during transition, really, but it looks like Kaister's pinning down his 2 black bears and picking up a CDB treasure zone. And Flontier's first shipment's still not arrived yet, and the fact once that shipment arrives, that actually provides the Uhlans on the field to actually raid. And here we go, 3 settler wagons with 2 Uhlans spawning out, but they're so far away from Kaister's base that Kaister's been a little bit greedy with his play with the 12-10 Cherokee basket weaving tech market upgrades, and he's only got 3 hussars out with his first batch. And I think if Kaister knows that he's ahead economically, or his play has led him to be somewhat economically ahead, I'm not too sure pushing out with 3 hussars is the safest option, given that you might not even know that Frontier's either going for DOPs or Uhlans, but a full batch of Uhlans on the field will clearly tear up 3 hussars, and this is a risky play from Kaister. There you go, the 3 hussars caught by all his Uhlans, and he's having to sacrifice 1 hussar just to get the other 2 away. And he desperately needs another batch of hussars in queue. And does he have that? Yes, he's only training another 3 though, so he hasn't got 2 batches of 5 for quite a while. And I'm unsure why. Amalgamation though, coming in for 200 wood is an absolute steal, so Kai's to be very happy to have that tech involved. 5 hussars still safe in the town centre. Barracks house coming down as well, but Flontier just doing standard build behind this with the extra batch of Uhlans as well. Should be able to push in with a large mass of Uhlans and actually could catch these hussars out. 11 Uhlans on the field currently to 5. Kaister will need Minutemen support to actually defend this, and you can see how he's frantically pinning quite a lot of his CDBs in already, because he just doesn't want to be body blocked by the sheer number of Uhlans. Resources dropped from Kaister, possible Minutemen on the way, and let's see if he wants to commit to this fight. I think Flontier wants to run, and yes, Minutemen popped, scouted by the Explorer, 1 Uhlans behind to try and snare. This hero hussar snaring the entire Uhlans mass, but they just turn around and take him out. So that raid has built up a lot of villagers from Kaister, as well as the force in the Minutemen, and I think Flontier would be happy with that. Looking by his resources though, it looks like he's still producing somewhat units, and yeah, he's got 4 villas in queue. So if he doesn't train any more other units, he should be able to age up soon by actually manually gathering all the resources. But really defensive house war here, but blocking off his berries, and berries are actually they're not fantastic, but it's very important to have access to berries in case you hit a rough patch. surprisingly, there was no hunt spawn in this riverbed to the north of Flontier's base, but there's the hunt spawn on top of this silver mine, which is very standard on this map spawn. We see kaister has a safe back hunt available, but nearby hunt down to the southward side of the TC being herded in by Flontier should provide the German player another safe hunt to gather from after he transitions to the Fortress Age. And again, both players, just like the last game, looks like they've trained a few units, had a bit of a gentleman's agreement, and have decided to not further invest into military units, and both are going to go age into the third age. We see a villager on the floor for kaister, and I believe this is part of the villager tech. So yes, we can see the other 3 settlers being produced on the native Cherokee tech, which have given him European settlers instead of native ones, but that's before the days of the war chief civilizations. So yeah, if we look onto text being completed, or text completed, we've seen that the Cherokee syllabary has come in for the kaister. So cheap market text with all market text research, as well as extra 4 villagers. Kaister does have the recalculated economic pop for the time being, and I think Kaister's in a really good position. I've liked his build so far, and we've seen this in other matches in this series, in this tournament, for players going for the Cherokee native posts, as well as, I haven't actually mentioned, but these train posts in this patch also provide XP bonuses as well. So it's like a half of a trading post, or maybe a third of a trading post, but Kaiser's got so much economic benefits as a result of it. Is that it's been a really, really good investment so far. Very nice. Comments suggesting that the basket weaving, even just for the amalgamation, is quite a worthy trade, but obviously you need to remember that, like, steel traps, no wood there, place miners, no wood there, hunting dogs, no wood there, so even before you get to the point of amalgamation, you've already saved yourself 250 wood. So yes, the amalgamation tech on top is just that final bit which really makes that tech a really good tech to get. Flontier's first shipment in Age 3 is 8 skirmishers, and both kaister sent 8 skirmishers as well, but neither player's actually decided to push out after that shipment's come in, and dragoons come in a bit too hot, picked off by skirmishers, 1 volley going off to the dragoon, and this dragoon's taken a lot of damage as well as a result, down to 67 HP, but luckily for kaister, still standing, still can contribute to any future engagements, and we see a few villagers being spread out onto different coin mines. This was the CDB from the earlier treasure he picked up, and kaister again moving in with 94 out of 100 housing population, skipping the any wood shipments post the 700 wood earlier on, and I think both players are going to be really aggressive early in Fortress Age. So here we go. Let's look into military units on the field in total. We do see skirmisher lead for kaister, 22 versus 8. We have a reinforcement batch just being made. Another batch of dragoons as well. 9 dragoons versus the 5 war wagons, and the war wagons as well. But 9 Uhlans coming in from the top. No upgrades as well, and the dragoons are quite far out as well. 5 hussars trying to join as well, and these Uhlans, there's a lot of them that actually can do a huge amount of work versus. This because some good kaiser action from kaister to try and get away from these Uhlans, and war wagons picking up these hussars while they can, and there's still so many Uhlans on the field, and they're second age. Just imagine if these were third age, and looks like they've only just now started to get picked up, and yeah, good kaiser action from kaister, managing to try and preserve his massive dragoons, and they were critical for kaister to remain in this game alive. Another batch of skirmishers produced, as well as another batch of 4 dragoons from kaister. So, this actual stronger eco from kaister just driving this momentum forward with his military, and he's also sent 5 dragoons to further bolster his army mass as well, which is really appreciated. Look at this dragoon mass; it's starting to swell, and he's poking in with the skirmishers, getting the 3 volleys onto the Minutemen. But dragoons are really far away. Like, I know Flontier can't really see where the dragoons are, but if an 8 Uhlan batch, and 8 Uhlans coming in, but he needs the vet Uhlan coming in for this to be worthwhile. Tech's being researched, no vet Uhlans coming in, and Flontier, you need that massive upgrade for the cavalry because they just fall over otherwise. Again, dragoons kiting away from the Uhlans, but there's no Hussars here this time to body block from the skirmishers. Quite a lot of skirmishers going down, and if skirmishers go down, it's not the end of the world. You've got your dragoons to, continuously kite and pick off these Uhlans, but this is quite a big shipment for Flontier to lose. You've seen that he sent 9 Uhlans, 8 Uhlans, so there's no more cavalry shipments to come. And again, they're just being picked off by the skirmishers. Like, skirmishers are acting as pseudo anti-cavalry. Unfortunately, angered the Black Bear treasure, and all the dragoons are down now. So, this is a cleanup for Flontier, and it would have been even more of a cleanup if he had the Vet Ulan. The 7 skirmisher reinforcement shipments decided to kind of decide he's going to nope out that and retreat to the safety of his town centre and retreat back. And he really needs actually maybe a few halberdiers just to try and stabilise with some sort of cav mass on the field. Coin miners for Flontier moving across the map, and that was a huge fight to lose for Kaister, and it was quite unfortunate that it was due to an 8 Ulan shipments back to back over 9 with no text being researched. But that's just what Germans do best, and that was send in, and we do have a donations at $5. Harrison, your cast is perfect. Oh, thank you, mate. I've just tried to see it on my very small op screen, so I haven't got the actual widget open on my screen. I forgot to open that as you can see, I was quite late on the donation bar today. But we do see skirmishers of Flontier still poking away at Kaister. The 3 war wagons still alive, and the fact that these war wagons are still on the field is kind of dissuading these 4 cuirassiers on the field. And Kaiser's gone for a 3 cuirassier shipment behind this as well. So, with a large mass of war wagons, and these Uhlans are only now just getting their veteran upgrade, but they're actually really good against other hand cavalry as well. And I think if Flontier sees this mass of no dragoons on the field, he might want to further invest into pure Ulan, but currently skirmish on the field, and fight's coming down soon because he's seen all these CDBs. He's got a position, he's got the pathing available, and I think it's going to benefit Flontier a little bit more because the Uhlans are stuck on the cavalry and the war wagons. They can't get onto the skirmishers. Uhlans engaging cuirassiers. War wagons stop turning around, fighting onto the cuirassiers and focusing down these guys. And the cavalry cuirassiers coming in, but too late. The tech's just coming now, but all the cavalry are dead. Their Uhlans onto the skirmisher mass of Kaister. Kaister's skirmishers falling apart. His army is absolutely being decimated, and these villagers are out of position. And Kaister has resigned at the end of that. So GG, really well played for Flontier there, and I doubted Flontier when he sent 9 Ulan, 8 Ulan, while the colonial units, but actually once that upgrade came in late, as well as the war wagons still being on the field protected, actually managed to pick off the cuirassier switch from Flontier, which I'm not too sure if Flontier was anticipating. Maybe he was just going for a safe 3-unit composition, but the fact that all those dragoons fell early on in the match was so critical for Flontier to come back into win that game. I think Kaister will be a bit disappointed in that game because he did have the eco lead throughout the game, as well as having been a really good positioning, especially when he was knocking on the Germans' town and poking away at a few of the villagers and picking up the Minutemen for free, as well as a few skirmishers. But once the 9 and 8 Ulan shipments came out, the Uhlans just engaged with the skirmishers picked off the dragoons, war wagons picked off the hussars in the first engagement, and I think Kaister was unable to remass dragoons because he only had the one barracks, so possibly reinforcement was a bit of issue for Kaister. And after he sent the 5 goons, 3 cuirassiers, he didn't have any extra shipments to kind of reinforce. He did have cavalry combat available, but when you're going to got a few units on the field, it's not exactly the most glamorous shipment to send if it's only backing up a few units. Military unit population. The graph suggests that Flontier had quite a few Uhlans early out in the field, as you would expect from the shipments and the batch he produced, but Kaister trained 2 batches of 3 hussars really, which is not ideal if you wanted to age up, and it actually squeezed in an extra, I think, the Minutemen pop as well. So Kaister had quite a few units in the field, but Flontier managed to train a few, but more importantly managed to keep most of those units alive for going to age 3. So when he pushed in with the 9 Ulan shipments, although they were second age, it was like 15, 18, 20 Ulans on top of Kaister's army, and so that was the real ramming force which the German army needed to smash into the French players' mass, and the supporting units of the of the war wagons and skirmishers picked off the hussars and dragoons of Kaister, and so managed to maintain it. And you can see the 9 Ulan spikes. So this is a 9 Ulan spike falling away very quickly, but maintaining population. And then 8 Ulans was just enough to break the skirmisher mass once all the dragoons and hussars are gone. So German TP, German shipments, feeding XP off previous engagements. These are things which Flontier took in his stride, and it doesn't matter if you have a greater eco and you can spam out an extra 10 skirmishers. If you got Ulan shipments off of your skirms, you're losing the entire army. And once that fight happened, the writing was on the wall for Kaister, and he struggled to come back in. Did send 3 cuirassiers, train a batch of 4, try to get some arsenal techs onto his cuirassiers, but just the military population for Flontier was just enough. And look at Kaister's eco. This is a huge eco, especially with the upgrades coming in, cheaper market techs, crate shipments as well, 4 villagers from the Cherokee, and this gradient is slightly steeper than Flontier's, which signifies he's getting a higher rate of resource income. And the greatest difference here, 14 minutes, 18,000 to about 14,000, so 4,000 difference. And that carries on to the end, about a 4,000 resource difference. But resources don't mean much when your army gets decimated by Ulans from the German player.